All right, friends, last week we were talking about quotation marks, and we learned that quotation marks are used to show exactly what a person has said. Reading our book, Bedtime Tales, and in that book, the characters often have conversations. We call that dialogue. That's when they are talking to one another and words are coming out of their mouth. Okay, quotation marks are used around those words to show us what they have said. We're going to practice using those today. Now, last week we practiced whenever we were saying the words in quotation marks, we put our hands up like this. Show me how we did that. And then whenever the quotation marks ended, what did we do? We put our hands down. So we're going to use that again today to practice. You watch me, and then we'll practice them together. James said, "Let's eat lunch." Okay, so where would the quotation marks go? Around what words? Emery? Okay, they would go in front of let's and after lunch. Okay, I'm going to read a sentence to you. You're going to repeat it after me, and when we need quotation marks, you're going to hold your hands up. Listen to the sentence first. Jorge said, "I like to sing." Okay, now repeat that sentence, and when we need quotation marks, hold your hands up. Ready? Jorge said, "I like to sing." Very good. The quotation marks would go around the words, "I like to sing," because those are the words that Jorge spoke. Okay, let's try another one. Listen to the sentence first. Raj said, "The beach was so hot." Ready? Oh, wait, we're only putting quotation marks around the words that Raj said. Listen to the sentence again. Raj said, "The beach was so hot." Let's try it. Raj said, "The beach was so hot." Very good. Hey, now we're going to practice marking written dialogue with quotation marks. So I've got my little stick guy back. Okay, I'm going to ask someone a question, and we're going to write your answer in the speech bubble, and then we're going to practice writing that answer out in a complete sentence. Okay, so let's see, Avery, what is something that you like to do after school? When you go home, what is something that you like to do? Play on my phone. All right. So this is Avery talking. We're going to put Avery on her head. And Avery said, "Play on my phone." Now, we're going to add a little bit just to make sure that we're writing a complete sentence. Okay. So we're going to say, "I like to play on my phone," Avery said. Okay, so let's look at the sentence that I just wrote. First off, I want you to notice the quotation marks. Where do we see them? In front of I and after phone. Okay, so let's read this sentence and use our hands for the quotation marks. Are you ready? "I like to play on my phone," Avery said. Did Avery say Avery said? No, we don't go around telling people we're the ones saying it. They know because they know our voice. They're watching our mouth, and so they know it's us talking. We don't have to tell people that. Thank you for raising your hand. But when we are writing sentences, we need to be sure we're telling the reader who is speaking. Colton? Well, then maybe we would put, what if you and Avery both said that? We could say, "I like to play on my phone," Colton and Avery said. We could put your name in there too. Okay? Now, here is another thing I want to point out to you. Last week, we were writing who was talking first. This week, we're practicing writing the words they say first and then telling who is talking last. So there are a couple of changes that we make when we do it that way. Are you looking? First off, instead of putting a period at the end of what they said, we're going to use a comma because the sentence is not finished yet. We still have the part that tells who is speaking. Also, last week we put a comma after who is speaking, but since that's the end of the sentence this time, instead we're going to put a period. Very good. All right, let's try another one. Camilla, what do you like to do after school? You like to color? Okay, this isn't cleaning off well. We'll just draw them. All right, Camilla said color. Now this is Camilla. It's not Avery. Okay, Camilla, you lost all your hair. All right, so Camilla said I like to color. But we want to put what Camilla said first. Okay, so what were the words Camilla said? Say them with me. I like to color. Very good. So I'm going to write those words. I like to color. Now let's talk about what we did up in the first sentence. First off, where do the quotation marks need to go? Sebastian? Okay, in front of I and after color. Those are all the words that Camilla spoke. Now remember, when we put the words that are being said first, we don't want to put a period. That's not the end of the sentence. Instead, we're going to use a comma. Good job. I like to color, comma. And then we need to put who said it, because if we were just reading this and we had not heard Camilla say it, we would not know who had said that, right? So I like to color, said Camilla. And since that's the very end of the sentence and we're done with all the words we're going to write, instead of a comma, we're going to use a period. Good job. All right, we're going to go back to our seat and we're going to practice writing some together. So when I give you your paper, just put your name on it and wait. We're going to do the first few together and then I'll give you some time to practice on your own, okay? All right, girls, head on back to your seat, get your pencil out, and I will come around with your paper. Boys, you can head on back. The first thing I do very good. Let's set that Chromebook up so we won't have room. All right. Now remember, the person is outside of the speech bubble. Inside the speech bubble is what that person is saying. And those are the words we're going to use quotation marks around, because if you can see the little arrow, it's pointing toward their mouth. So this is symbolizing that these words are coming out of Mike's mouth. All right, let's look at the first one. Who is talking? Mike. I see him right here. And what is he saying? Read it with me. Tell me a bedtime tale. Okay, let's try that again, and this time let's cup our hands around our mouths to show that's what he's saying. Here we go. Tell me a bedtime tale. Very good. So we want to write those words on the line using our quotation marks around them. I'm going to do it on the board while you write it on your paper, and once you finish writing, I want you to check and be sure yours matches mine. You already have the words said Mike, so you don't have to write those. I'm just writing them up there so mine matches yours. All of these words in this bubble are what Mike said. We need to write them down and put our quotation marks around them. Okay, how about let's move them up to this line so we've got enough room and it doesn't look so crammed up. Okay, so we have those words written down on the line. This doesn't have to be our most perfect handwriting. We're practicing right now, okay? Let's write those words down and be sure you have quotation marks in front of tail and after the other tail, okay? Because those are the words that Mike spoke. Now, we're missing something. There's a punctuation mark I need somewhere in my sentence. Can you tell me what it is, Austin?
A comma.
Where do I need to put a comma?
Where tail is.
Where tail is. This tail? The verb tail or the noun tail? Okay, the verb tail. So the noun tail, like a story tail.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Whenever we use the words that are spoken first, we end them with a comma instead of a period. There's one more thing I want to make sure you have, and that is a capital letter at the beginning of your sentence. We always start every sentence with a capital letter. Okay, make sure yours matches mine, and when it does, give yourself a pat on the back. Okay, buddy, we've already got this part. Okay, let's try number 2. Look with me. Who is talking in number 2? Jane. And let's speak the words she's saying. And when we say the words she says, we'll put our hands around our mouth. Are you ready? I will sell this milk, said Jane. Okay, so you write the words down that Jane said, and use your quotation marks around them. Chase, we're on number 2. Okay, now if you're waiting, make sure you have all the punctuation you need. Everything is appropriately capitalized. Let's move this one over here because this is after the last word he said. Okay, so let's move that one around to the back. Okay. Where should the quotation marks go? In front of I and after milk. Okay, in front of I and after milk. What else do I need to make sure I have, Braxton? Okay, I need to make sure I have a period at the very end, which I do. Okay, I have quotation marks around the words Jane said. Anything else I need, Emery? Where do I need to put a comma? I'm really glad you said before the quotation marks, because when we use punctuation with quotation marks, we want to make sure that punctuation gets inside of those quotation marks. Okay. Is your first word capitalized? Yes. And is Jane capitalized as well? Yes. All right, make sure yours matches mine. Make sure that comma is inside your quotation marks. Very good. All right, let's do one more, and then I'm going to let you finish these up once we've read our story for today. Who's talking in the next one? Mike's dad. Let's repeat the words that he says. Are you ready? When the sun is down, it's bedtime, said Mike's dad. Let's do that one more time. Not everybody was with me. When the sun is down, it's bedtime, said Mike's dad. Very good. You write the sentence, use the quotation marks correctly, and be sure you get that comma in there. Okay, where are your quotation marks? Good job getting that comma in there. This sentence might be a little tricky because there was another comma that we had to use in this sentence as well. So you're going to have two commas in this sentence. The one that was already there and the one we add when using quotation marks. Okay? Don't get them confused. All right, Jace, tell me where the quotation marks need to go. Be more specific, please. In front of what word? Okay, in front of when, which I accidentally did on my own. And after. Okay, let's repeat the words Mike's dad said again. Read them with me. When the sun is down, it's bedtime, said Mike's dad. When did our hands go down? After what word? After bedtime. So we need to put the last set of quotation marks after that last word Mike's dad said. Okay? And then where should the comma go? Ian, can you tell me where? Okay, well, that's an apostrophe, which we use in a contraction. But there's a comma we need to use because the sentence is not quite over. But it's kind of a stopping point for something. Trinity? After down, that comma was already there. That's part of what Mike's dad said. But remember I said there would be an additional comma. After bedtime, good. Because that's kind of the stopping point for what Mike's dad said, but the sentence is not quite over. So we have to show that his speech is over, but there's still a little more to write in the sentence. Okay? All right, at the end of the lesson, we'll wrap up by finishing the back of this. What I want you to do is just lay it to the side right now while I give you a bedtime tales book. And I want you to be looking in your table of contents for the story called The Hare and the Hedgehog. Okay, they're also known as jackrabbits. So they're bigger and faster than the rabbits you might see in your yard.
Well, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. They're like in snow, deserts, everywhere.
Okay, maybe so. I'm not sure. I'm not a hare expert. But we're going to talk about a story we've heard before with a hare. Be thinking about that. This is a hedgehog. Okay, a hedgehog's a small little animal, kind of like a very small porcupine. It's got spines, little spikes all over their bodies. Oh, I hope you're listening. They have short legs and they roll into a really tight little ball if they feel like they're in danger. Okay? Can they? You guys know a lot about hares and hedgehogs. I'm impressed. Okay, let's raise our hand, please. Okay, thank you. I want to know if you've ever heard a story about a hare before. I've heard one. There's one that we hear a lot that's a pretty famous story. Oh, thank you for raising your hand. Colton, can you tell me about a story you've heard about a hare before? Okay, maybe a tortoise. So the tortoise and the hare. Tell me what happened in the tortoise and the hare. Okay, say that a little bit louder. Okay. Okay, so the hare thought that he was going to win because we learned just now that hares are really what? Fast. They have long legs. They're fast. That's what they're known for. Okay, and what are tortoises or turtles famous for? Being very slow, right? Oh, let's raise our hand. Go ahead. The turtle wins. Oh, tell me why. Oh, very good. There's the lesson to be learned in that story. Slow and steady wins the race. So what happened was the hare is so confident in himself that he decides halfway through the race to stop and take a nap. Because he's so far ahead of the turtle, there's no way the turtle can catch up with him, or so he thinks. But the tortoise keeps moving slowly and steadily. He doesn't stop. He doesn't give up. And eventually, he slowly passes the hare, who's what? Who's napping, sleeping. And he reaches the finish line before the hare does because he did everything slow and steady. Okay? Sometimes it's not great to rush through things. Take your time and go at a steady pace, and that ends up having better results, right? Oh, thank you. Thank you for raising your hand. Liam? He got, right. So there's probably some different versions of it, but basically what happened is he fell asleep, the tortoise passed him and won, and the lesson is slow and steady wins the race, okay? So we're going to read a story today called The Hare and the Hedgehog. This is a trickster tale. We've heard that term before. A trickster tale is where one character is going to be clever and trick the other one, okay? This story involves a race between the hedgehog, who has what kind of legs? The hedgehog. Short little legs, right? And the hare, who we know is very fast and has long legs, okay? So we're going to hear a story that might sound similar to one you've heard before. Now, we're going to see some words that have the spellings we've been learning this week, okay? We've been talking about the OI and OY, and we know both of those sounds say what? Oi. And we've been learning that OW and OU both say OW. and OU both say ow. Good. So let's look at some words we're going to see in our story. Read these with me. Join, coins, and enjoy. Okay, we have a couple of OI spellings and a one OY to look for. Okay, and let's look at our OW and OU words. Read them with me. Frowned. Let me hear you. How, house, south, and out. So not only are we reading to hear a story, but we're reading to practice those spellings and sounds that we have learned this week. Okay? Let me tell you about a couple of vocabulary words before we read our story. Brag is a word you're going to hear in this story, and that means to talk about your strengths to the point of being annoying. Have you ever heard someone brag before? It kind of gets on your nerves, doesn't it? It's not really a very polite thing to do. It's okay to be proud of yourself, but when you brag, you're kind of making it a little bit too big of a deal and kind of telling maybe that you're a little bit better than you really are, or maybe just better than everybody needs to know that you are. Stumps are the short part of the trunk left after a tree is cut down. So the very bottom part of the tree where the roots come out from the ground, that is the stump after a tree has been cut down and there's just a little bit of the tree left. And then we have a saying called out of your wits. This isn't one I hear used very often, but it's in our story today. And it means that it's used to imply that an idea is just ridiculous. Okay, so whenever someone says you're out of your wits, they just mean whatever your idea was seems a little bit silly and ridiculous. Okay? So when you reach those points in the story today, just to remember that what those words mean, and also be looking for and sounding out those oi and ow words correctly in the story. So we're going to read the story with our partner. We're going to take turns each reading one page. Partner A will read first, and then partner B will read next. We'll read an entire page. If you're the one that is tracking, be sure you're following along. If your partner reaches a word they do not know, help them sound it out, and we'll move along from there. When you're finished reading, I'd like for you to come back to your seat to show me that you're done and ready to answer questions. Got it? Hey, please push your chair in and walk carefully to your spot. There were some similar parts that they're going for a race, right? And the hare is very confident that he's going to win. There's a little bit different, though, which we haven't finished the story yet, but what's a little bit different from the other story, Ian?
The hedgehog's gonna cheat.
Well, maybe not cheat. He's going to trick the hedgehog, which I guess we could say the tortoise. Really, the tortoise didn't trick the hare. He just slowly and steadily worked until he won. The hedgehog is up to something, and we don't know what yet, but we'll find out tomorrow when we read. I want you to keep your book open to the story today, and I'm going to ask you some questions, and all of the questions I'm asking you today are text-dependent questions, which means you have to depend on the text to find the answer. So when I ask you a question, even if you may already know what the answer is, I want you to go back and put your finger on exactly where it is in the story. Okay? Everybody understand? Colton, do you understand? So, yes, ma'am. We're going to look back in the story, even if the answer pops straight into our head, just to confirm that what we think is the right answer is correct. Okay? Here's our first question. What did the hare like to brag about? I want you to look back in this story and find exactly what the hare was bragging about. Put your finger on it and then raise your hand to answer. Hey, and when you give me an answer, try to answer me in a complete sentence. So reframe the question to where you're answering with a complete sentence as your thought. Braxton, what did the hare like to brag about?
He liked to brag about he was the fastest hedgehog.
Okay, he liked to brag about being the fastest. What page did you find that answer on?
36.
Everybody be sure you're looking on page 36 and put your finger where you see the hare bragging about how fast he is. Do you see it? Someone read exactly from the story what it says that lets us know that's the right answer. Camilla, can you read that for us? Tell me. He liked to brag. There's one of those words from our question. And what was the next line? I'm so fast. I am the fastest. No one is as fast as me. So you're correct, Braxton. He liked to brag about how fast he is. Okay, here's the next question. Why did the hedgehog want to race the hare? Look in your story. I know you may know the answer already, but I want you to find it and point to it in your book. Why did the hedgehog want to race the hare? Ian, are you looking? Point to it when you see it and raise your hand. Show me you've got it. Adeline, tell me in a complete sentence why he wanted to race the hare.
He wanted to trick the hare and get the hare to stop bragging.
Okay, he was tired of all the bragging. It says on page 36, the hedgehog got sick of all this bragging. So he set himself to thinking how he could trick the hare and get him to stop bragging all the time. Bragging can be kind of annoying, especially when someone does it a lot. Hey, so he's tired of this and he wants it to stop, right? Here's our next question. Listen to this sentence from the story. The hare smiled. You and I, he said, is this a joke? Why does the hare think the hedgehog is joking? I will give you a little hint. That line I just read to you from the story is on page 38. So look for that line, read what's around it, and think to yourself, why does the hare think he can beat, or I'm sorry, why does the hare think that the hedgehog is joking? I almost gave the answer away. Emery, tell me in a complete sentence. Okay, we talked about with our vocabulary, stumps are the very short part of the tree. If your legs are like trees, then that means they're very long, right, and tall. But the stump is the very short part to the ground. So he says those legs of yours are like stumps, and why would that kind of why would that be almost offensive to the hedgehog? What does the hare think? Because his legs are like stumps, what? Tell me. He's going to beat him because
his legs are the hedgehog's legs are so short and the hare is so fast.
Okay, the hare is fast. He once again thinks that he's the winner, but just because his legs are longer. What, Braxton? He should have learned his lesson with the tortoise race, but apparently he didn't because he's still thinking, just because my legs are longer than yours, I'm always going to win. Do you think that's what's going to happen?
No.
I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow. All right, I've got a couple more questions. Listen to this one. What part of the day do we experience sunrise? We know the answer to this. What part of the day is sunrise? Ian? Okay, we see the sunrise in the morning. And what part of the day is sunset? Sebastian? at the nighttime. So we see the sunrise in the morning and the sunset at nighttime. Here's your question. How long does the hare suggest it will take the hedgehog to hike a mile? I'm looking in my story from where they were discussing sunrise and sunset. What page do you see it on? Page 38. Okay, if you're not there yet, I need you looking on page 38. Do you see it, Austin? Let's read that sentence together. It must take you from sunrise until sundown to hike a mile. So how long is he suggesting it would take for him to hike a mile? Zayla? Practically a whole day, like at least half a day, right? From the time the sun comes up till the sun goes down. So from the morning to the nighttime, which is about 12 or 14 hours. That's a really long time. Pretty much from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed. He's saying that's how long it would take to hike a mile. Here's our last question. Are you ready? How does the hedgehog's wife feel about his plan? Find it in the story. You're flipping and looking. How does the hedgehog's wife feel about his plan? What page are we looking on? Page 40. Hey, Liam, tell me in a complete sentence. She thinks he's out of his wits. And I heard somebody while we were reading say, I have no idea what that means, but didn't we just talk about it? What did we say out of your wits means? Austin? Out of your mind. You're crazy. That's ridiculous. So he thinks that, or she thinks that he is absolutely crazy to want to race the hare. Why does she think that? Excuse me. Zayla? Because he's got short legs and the hare's got long legs. So even the wife thinks there's no way the hedgehog's going to win. I don't know. Somebody's going to learn a lesson, but I don't know who. We'll find out tomorrow. All right. Close your book up. To wrap up our lesson, you're going to turn over and finish writing those 3 sentences with quotation marks. Be sure you're using correct punctuation. Putting your quotation marks in the right places properly. When you're finished, you're going to turn it in, and I'll have the book shopping schedule up on the board, and it will be our AR time now. Got it?